we're going to continue our journey along the road to being more profitable and sustainable. So I really appreciate, this is Matt Wongan, and Marlo's in the blue sheet there talking to my wife. Marlo and I are about the same age. I think he's a year older than I am. And Matt is a young farmer. He's still, are you 40 yet? Okay, you are. Okay. 46, okay. Time flies by. And this is their operation here. And they've been on a journey, I would say, for the last at least 20 years of changing things and making a difference. And I would say Matt's got an excellent crop coming this year. Right along the road here, there's a kind of a sand lane. And when it got the 10 days of hot weather we had in August, really pushed the crop if you had light soil. But I think there's a difference between premature death and lack of water. And I kind of separate those two, but we'll go up on the road there and you'll see how green the corn is there. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about soils.
This used to be a hill.
Oh.
The hill is now over that bridge.
Oh, so part of the freeway.
So yeah.
This is
all that past them bushes there. This used to be a pretty high hill. The hill is over that interstate, so the black dirt was off, and then they put it back, but it's never the same.
Yeah. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about these soils, and then we're going to go over and go through the equipment. We got a strip till machine, the planter, and the side dress unit. And then we're going to come back, depending on the time, look at some plant samples, and then the drone. So that's the program. And please ask anybody want to have any questions to start with here from what we covered this morning? Okay. So I'm going to start over here. So Alan, come up here. I want you to tell me about this soil right here. What do you see? Now turn over here so they can.
Oh, okay.
We'll kind of hold it up. What do you think? Is that in pretty good shape?
No, it's compacted.
Yeah.
I don't see much for roots or
What do you think would cause something like that?
anhydrous ammonia.
Okay. What else?
Big tractors.
Big tractors?
Weight grain carts.
Working the soil when it's wet?
Working soil when it's
Because
wet.
we're going
I
to,
didn't have
remember,
that problem.
we're in control, right? So we're going to work it even if it's not ready. And what about maybe some high salt fertilizers?
Probably.
Okay.
Low microbe activity.
Yeah, really low, I would say. Probably none in there.
I don't see any earthworm holes.
Nope. So that actually came out of one of our
He
local.
didn't script this. for
No,
me.
you did a really good job.
Oh, Jim, when you were talking about bricks, is that what you meant?
Yeah, that's right here. This is a brick. And that actually was taken out of one of the local conventional farmers' fields, okay? And that's why his corn prematurely dies. So this is what I call severe.
Was that like, drive for inroads or something where they drove a lot? No.
It was on the end, not on the drive, but on the end of the field. Yeah. Okay, so that's severe. Now, let's see. Who else can help me? Anybody else want to help me out here? Otherwise, I'll have to ask for volunteers. What's your name?
I'm sleeping. Brady.
Brady, come up here, Brady. So Brady, come on over here. So I have these soils here, and I want you just to look at these soils. You can touch them if you want to, and tell me what you see as far as differences.
Between these?
These three right here. Yeah.
Well, obviously you got color. You don't got soil like that. There's a worm. Couple of them.
Okay. So is there a difference between these soils?
Yeah.
What if I told you I collected those within 100 feet of each other?
How deep did you dig?
I just took it off the top.
Really?
I took a spade and got a bunch.
My farm chick.
So this is in my conventional farmer's field. What do you notice about this?
Was it an old road?
Huh?
An old road
No,
that was lying around?
not an old road. Now, if this were drier, it'd be a lot different than when it's wet. This would be breaking off in big dried chunks. So
A lot
this,
of organic matter.
this, well, no, it
Waves.
doesn't. It doesn't have a lot.
Well, you got a
Now,
lot of
what if I
roots, so-
told you this was 100 feet away from that?
Be odd.
Okay, this is my garden,
Yeah.
and this is out in the field, no more than 100 feet from where that was pulled. Okay, and you see the earthworm, you see the granulation. Okay, and that's why. See, look at. Oh boy, they got to see this.
Go fishing.
You see, you guys, can you see all these worms in here? Look at the worms.
All right.
Okay. Oh, they're all, look at them underneath there. There's all kinds of worms in here. Now, do you think there's going to be a difference in productivity between these two soils?
For sure.
Yeah.
I'd say that one wouldn't do as much air to it.
Okay. Now let's look at this one right here. What do you notice about this? You found some earthworms in there, right? And it breaks apart pretty good. It looks like it's pretty granular, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So I would consider this fence line soil. And this was taken, again, all these samples were pulled within 100 feet of each other. So this was pulled out of the fence row. Dramatic difference, isn't there? So this is kind of an example of what industrial agriculture has done to our soils. And that's why we got a lot of erosion going on. And I think we've just seen the tip of the iceberg what they're going to do to us when it comes to water quality. They're going to come down with a hammer, and they're going to go after raw manure and high salt fertilizers, anhydrous, or any nitrogen source because of the water quality issues. Water is the #1 limiting resource anywhere in the world, and it's starting to be a severe one in this country. Just go out west and talk to the growers out there. They were shut down this year. All their water was turned off. How would you like to be a farmer and have your income just taken away? Now, I don't know if the government will come in and subsidize them or not, but
That doesn't grow food though.
what's that?
It doesn't grow food though if they turn off the water.
Yeah, yeah. That's right. So what happens to our food prices?
And the harvesting it.
Yeah, we're seeing it already, aren't we? Well, thank you. I appreciate that. All right. The next one is actually one of Matt's soils. And Dennis, come up here. What do you notice about this soil here, Dennis?
Got roots in it.
Yeah.
Lots of roots in it.
What would you say? It's in pretty good
Very-
shape, huh?
Good aggregation.
Yeah.
When you break it apart, it doesn't break in angles,
No.
unlike that one over
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Either one of them.
Yeah. So when it's compacted, even when it's wet, it breaks in angles, doesn't it?
Right. They're very sharp angles.
Yeah.
You can crunch it with your fingers.
So this field here, Matt, was off of Bill's.
Has a good earthy
So
smell.
what
to
have
it.
you done to the Bill soil over the last, let's say, 5 years?
It's been mostly corn on corn, 1 year of sweet corn, and it's in its 3rd year of strip corn.
And you did another thing, right? Begins with a C, 2 C's in a row. Cover crop.
Super crop.
Yeah.
3
So
years of cover crop.
3 years of cover crop. So this has had 3 years of cover crop, not last year, but the 3 previous years, or, and then strip till.
Look at that one right there. 1, 2, 3 earthworms in that little piece.
Yeah, right in here, the baby earthworm. See that? Now, I showed you this morning the improvement in nutrient value of earthworm poop, didn't I? Huh? So when you find these earthworms in this soil, the concentration and quality of that nutrient is through the roof. And that's something you can't capture here or here. Okay? So if we're truly in business to be sustainable and profitable, we got to ask ourselves. There's another little one there, Dennis. See that? And okay,
Feeding on the residue.
feeding on the residue.
With the residue, how it's broken down.
All right, here's another one of Matt's fields within this right here. So let's see who. Dennis, do you want to help me? Sure, come on up.
One way to keep me quiet, right?
just to come right over here.
Larry, his brother Dennis.
Now,
My brother's name is
okay,
Larry.
again, these soils here were pulled probably within 50 feet of each other. Okay, so what do you see in this soil right here? You see a corn cob, I see.
Yeah, there. Yeah.
Okay, what do you notice? Is there sharp ridges on this?
Yeah.
So would you say that would be a strip till, high productive field or conventional field? What do you think?
Probably conventional with some compaction then.
Yeah, probably high salt fertilizers,
Okay.
probably some glyphosate. So this would be the field, the conventional field right next to Matt's.
We did find one worm.
Did you find one?
Yep.
Okay. And actually, this particular field, I was surprised it looked better than I thought it would when I pulled the soil sample. But I think that's indicative of the summer and the moisture that we've had. Now, what about this soil right here? Come over here.
Lot smaller, like more crumbly.
Okay. Now, why I'm going through this, until you recognize what a healthy soil is, what did I say this morning? Start with the end in mind, right? Wilbur, do you think that's important in life for a lot of reasons? Start with the end in mind. What are you trying to do? What are you trying to create? And you've got to be able to do it in a profitable, sustainable way. And not only are you taking care of you and your family, but you're taking care of the neighborhood and everybody else in the watershed. So tell us about this soil here.
Well, it's already a lot crumbly.
Okay, this
Pieces
just breaks apart, doesn't
Yeah.
it? Looks like it's got pretty good bioactive carbon in it. Okay. Okay, that's would be Agams, Matt. So tell us what you did on Agams.
I think it was in 18, it was prevent planted, and I had cover crop on it. I put cover crop on it the fall of 17, and 18 it was wet, and I had never planted it, so I let the cover crop grow the entire year, mowed it off a few times, and then, so that was a really big bonus. The next spring I no-tilled beans into it, into green cover crop.
Okay.
And then this year, that last fall, I put strips down and put corn in it this year.
Okay. And when you started with that piece was probably farmed pretty hard, wasn't it?
I say that's the toughest piece I farmed.
Okay.
The
So
highest clay
you
content, on
you-
rolling hills.
Yep. You've come a long way, right, on that. And then this, of course,
Doesn't look so hot again.
well, no, wait, no, don't say
Oh, it's got
that.
all the roots though.
Look at this.
Yeah, it's got all the
See?
roots.
Look at
yeah,
that.
Yeah, so it's holding together.
So this
yeah.
is out of the fence line, okay?
Yeah, so it's got
Look
the
at-
roots, but it's still
yep.
crumbly.
Yeah, it's got all these nice roots in there.
Yeah.
A lot of. So again,
I thought it was just a big chunk, but it's the roots.
what's that?
Louisiana won't get that stuff. The roots are going
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, this next one was pulled, and again, we had the week of the 28th weekend, we had close to, I think it was 5 to 7 inches in this area, Matt. So if it'd be a typical year and we wouldn't have that rainfall, these soils would be looking tougher than they are right now. But
Even with that 7 inches of rain, we're still at like 5 to 6 inches below average
Yeah.
precipitation.
yeah. Now let's look at
to.
these two.
Jim, were these all taken the same day?
Yes.
So like that one, they were really.
Oh, the one on the end, I've had that for a year, okay? Yeah,
But it was like that.
yeah, it was like that.
He didn't glue it together.
All right. Now, the next one,
Got a rock that he killed.
this is actually a field that Matt farms, and I'm going to show you some other stuff when we get down here on this particular field that is planted as sweet corn this year. So Marlo sprayed it with the crop residue digester program last year. he used Bioregenerate and the UBO. And there appears, because of the moisture, not to be a lot of difference between it. But I also have some in the pail here, and I got some here in this container. So this is generally, if you can see this here where we didn't use the fall residue program, is that kind of a chunk?
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm talking about, the difference. Now, Warren, feel that right there. See how it breaks apart easier?
Yep.
Okay. You got a lot darker soil, more moist. You're building organic bioactive carbon. And when you look at these, can you see the difference in color there? And when you're in that field this spring, from the first day I went out there, when I looked at that flag and I looked this way where it had been sprayed, it was kind of a dark, moist color. When I looked at this way, it was more of a gray, kind of like a gray overcast soil. And you could see right away the difference between the two. And again, this is a lot more
Jim,
chunky. Yeah.
that control isn't going to hold near the water the
Oh, right.
where we put the crop residue product on is. When
Yeah.
it gets aggregated like that, it's going to hold water
Right.
much more than a blocky piece of soil. Like
Well, we know clay holds nutrients and some moisture, but mainly nutrients. What does organic matter do? It holds moisture, and it holds nutrients, and it's a home for the microbes. It's a food for the microbes. The microbes need the carbon. And what you want to be able to do is have this during the growing season, then respire that CO2 up in the canopy. That's how you get high yields. You got to get that CO2 coming out of the soil, because you're limited. How much carbon is in the atmosphere? Do you remember? 0.03% carbon. And how many pounds of glucose does it take to produce 1 bushel of corn? You listening this morning, Larry?
I want to say 100.
100, you're right. And how many pounds to produce 1 bushel of beans? 300. Because soybeans are high oil and protein, so it takes more energy. So really, we're in the carbon business, we're in the energy business. So now let's move on. See what else we got here. Huh, okay. Just by looking at this here, Chad, what do you think? What do you see?
A little bit, don't hold them together, real tight.
Yeah, and see that, like Dennis said, the sharp angle.
Yep.
Okay. Very, very sticky. This actually came out of my conventional neighbor's field, probably about 50 feet off the drive. In fact, where this came from is the same place the number 1 came from, only that's been pulled before this, obviously. This one came off some ground that I have, that actually my son has at Matt Farms. It's the research farm. And so this came out of an area, and this is a very sandy soil. It's very gritty, very sandy. But you can see there was actually a cover crop in this last year, and you see the remnants of that, don't you? See the nice, see how it breaks apart? Really nice. So, I mean, that kind of shows the value of the cover crops, living roots. And the cover crops, what are they providing to this soil? Well, they're really providing the energy, aren't they? The sugars. That's so critical. And they're capturing certain nutrients out of the air too, right? Because plants can harvest nutrients out of the air as well. Okay, now this one here. This is just a sample that I pulled This has been in sod for about 3 years. Look at that. So that when we say living soil, we say building bioactive carbon, building the soil food web, you know, here's an earthworm right here. How best can you do that on your farm? Because really in business, really what it comes down to is real simple. You have your production cost, you have the output times price, and you separate the production cost from that figure. Then when you multiply price times yield, and that determines your profit. So the more that you can harvest from the atmosphere and use Mother Nature, tillage is very expensive. You got the equipment, you got the fuel, you got the labor. So what can you do to cut back on those aspects of the farming operation? And then this one here, okay, this came off another field at Matt Farms. Actually a field that I still own. This came out of Sinholz. And Matt, this was just, would be east of the drive there. So what have you done with that field the last 3 or 4 years?
It has been,
What year did we have cover crop on it?
that's been a while ago,
Been 5 years, hasn't it?
at least.
Yeah.
And then I've just been strip tilling it. I haven't pulled a ripper across it.
Yeah, it's all strip till and very nice black soil. Now, whether it's been 5 or 8 years ago, I can't remember now. I took a year and I put a lot of, I took ground and I put it in spring triticale with an underseeding of red clover on about 2/3 of my ground. And then I took that off as a crop and I wrapped it with plastic and I put the forage enhancer in there, the microbes. And at that time I had cattle. And then we went in there with forage Sudan grass, forage Sudan, and we let that go, and then we took that off as a cutting. And then we didn't do anything to that ground all winter long. We had that red clover there. And Matt came in and he planted right into it. And we saw that effect for how many years on that ground that we did? You could see it, couldn't you?
I would, yeah, for sure, like 3, for sure.
Yeah. It just responded better. Okay? And
And all of those acres had been corn for, you know, it was the first year it wasn't corn for probably 15.
yeah, yeah. So this really, if you think about it, all of us and all of our livestock is dependent on what? The soil. Think about it. That's where our food comes from. And so that's why the soil health is so critical and important. All righty, any questions? Yeah.
I know like on composted, it's black is bacteria dominated, brown is more fungal, so the black soil is the bacteria or the fungal?
The what now?
No, like when you have compost,
Yeah.
if it's black, it's bacteria dominant, brown is fungal. So the black soil, is that bacteria or the fungal dominated?
It could be both. Yeah, yeah. I would guess on any of these conventional soils that there's probably not a lot of fungal activity in there. On the like this soil down here, I would say there'd be a lot of fungal activity in there. This field here, the residue's breaking down pretty nicely, and that's one of our number one problems we got today is the out of balance ratio of fungal to bacteria. And a lot of our pesticides, our fungicides, our hard salt fertilizers are deadly. And the mycorrhizae fungi are very important in living in a mutual beneficial relationship to the plant. And their hyphae grows into the root of the plant, and then they feed off the plant, and then they bring to the plant the nutrients and moisture, especially phosphorus. And when you use a fungal seed coating, you kill that. If you use fungicides in your corn, you're killing that. And that's the reason why much of our corn today is prematurely dying, because we just destroyed that whole complex. And now the corn plant is just naked. And there's no helpers to keep it healthy. Yeah.
Does the pH vary much on some of these soils?
Due to the fact I pulled these in kind of the general area, I would say that this one is probably a lower pH here, and that one down there is probably a little bit higher pH. What is the ideal pH for soil that we want?
7.
What?
7.
Okay.
6, 8.
It's somewhere, Dennis, isn't it?
6, 7.
6, 7, yeah, somewhere in there, yeah.
That sample from Eggums, that particular farm goes from about 5.5 to 7.5.
So it varies quite a bit, yeah. Okay, why don't we get up then and let's go down here.